Greetings, everybody. It is Gul'dan here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. The last episode we left off, we were 11 years before the Dark Portal, and we found out about, I guess you could call them a race called the Mach Nathal, an orc, ogre, slave hybrid race that the orcs convinced to uprise against their ogre masters, and they essentially overthrew the last ogre stronghold, the last major ogre settlement. So stay a while and listen to this one. Now that we're 10 years before the Dark Portal, we're getting closer. We've got a decade to go. And now this one's called Harbinger of the Legion. So we're going to start. I mean, 10 years to go, you know that we've got to start putting the events in motion. From Talgath's observations, Kil'jaeden learned much of the orcs. They were a resilient, proud, and mighty race. They were also superstitious creatures who engaged in ancestor worship and honored the world's elemental spirits. Kil'jaeden believed that these strong traditions would make the orcs easy to manipulate. If he could bend them to his will, he would use them to enact vengeance on the Draenei before incorporating the orcs into the Legion. That's why there's an orcish Draenei battle. Talgath was infuriated when he learned of Kil'jaeden's plans. The renegades were finally in his grasp. He had not endured millennia of hunting the Draenei just so the primitive orcs could spill their blood. He demanded that his master reconsider. Kil'jaeden would have normally repaid such insubordination with death, but he understood Talgath's anger. Still, the Demon Lord would not allow such disobedience to go unpunished. He ordered Talgath to leave Draenor. Kil'jaeden's servant would play no part in the Draenei's downfall. With Talgath gone, Kil'jaeden focused on corrupting the orcs. He needed an agent from their race to follow his will, and he carefully searched for someone whom he could sway to his side. Kil'jaeden found many suitable candidates, but none held as much potential as Gul'dan. He'd been born with physical weaknesses into a small clan at the edge of Gorgrond. The superstitious orcs saw Gul'dan's twisted form as an ill omen, and they eventually exiled him. Finally, guys, we've got Gul'dan, who we know is the main orchestrator of opening up the Dark Portal. He's also the final boss in some of the expansions. I'm trying to remember the raid where you go and you fight him, which raid that is. Can't remember if that's Burning Crusade. I think so. Maybe it's Legion, though, as well. Legion, yeah, I think probably multiple. Only the clan's elder shaman took pity on Gul'dan. He told them to seek out the throne of the elements in Nagrand, where he might find his purpose in life from the native spirits. At first, Gul'dan rejected the shaman's advice. Years of being treated with disdain had made him bitter and vengeful. But after struggling to survive alone in the wilds, he sought out the throne of the elements. Gul'dan reached the holy site, a shadow of what he once was, a pitiful orc, wasted away by hunger and pushed to the brink of death. He fell to his knees and cried out to the spirits, proclaiming he would serve them if it meant an end to his suffering. The elements answered, but not in the way Gul'dan had hoped for. The spirits sensed the darkness and fury in the orc's heart, and they rejected him just as his clan had. Gul'dan's sorrow overwhelmed him. Everything in this world had abandoned him. He had nothing. He was nothing. Kil'jaeden reached out to his desperate prey and whispered in his mind. He promised to make Gul'dan so powerful that no one would ever pity or dominate him again. The orc would become like a god, and he would punish all who had wronged him. In exchange for this power, Gul'dan would help the Burning Legion use the orcs as a weapon to destroy the Draenei. Gul'dan agreed to this shadow pact. He had no love for his own people, only disdain. Their customs and traditions had caused his suffering. If attaining godhood meant manipulating the orc race, he would not hesitate to do so. Kil'jaeden instructed his new servant in the ways of fell magic. The Demon Lord knew that these energies would physically change the orc or even draw the Draenei's attention, so he took steps to hide Gul'dan's new abilities. Kil'jaeden taught the orc how to mask his powers, and he ordered him to use fell magic only when absolutely necessary. Gul'dan took to the volatile power faster than expected. He reveled in the destructive might at his fingertips. So was born the first orc warlock. And now we officially have that word warlock in the lexicon because it hadn't been there before. We know the orc warlocks are the important ones. They're the ones that are going to be part of orcs and humans. I don't really think there are many that exist outside of the orcs until possibly in Warcraft 3. That's your possibility. There are ogre warlocks. Just about every race can become a warlock. I'm trying to think of there's no. Most of the time when you think well, what race can't become a warlock, it's usually like the Tauren. They can't do stuff like that. I don't know if the Draenei, I think they can become warlocks. The Eridar certainly can, so there's no reason, I would think there's no reason why the Draenei cannot become warlocks. Humans can, dwarves can, gnomes can, worgen can. Yeah, so most of the races that I'm thinking, maybe night elves can't. It's possible they would never do that. Either way, there's very few races that cannot succumb to the dark magic. But here's our first official one. In our book, we know that, I guess you could make the argument, the Eridar, those warlocks exist already. All right, guys, another episode in the Pipes 5x5. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.